Ooh, you didn't tell me you were a brainiac.
Welcome to LeatherBrainz, your host here, Slap a Dog, and it is episode, I don't even know what, 194 is what the episode is. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. I got Scotty Del Rey here. Alan Casanova Castro could not make it, so it's just Scotty and I for a fun-filled episode. You deal with it, Scotty. You tell him to deal with it. Thank you.
I will.
Is Aaron Rodgers the new running back for the Jets, the RB1 for the Jets? We've got Jayden Daniels will most likely win Rookie of the Year. Nick Sirianni on the hot seat and about to lose his job. We're going to be discussing all of this today and so much more. But before we do that, of course, we have to give a shout out to our sponsor, Erica's Healthy Pet. Guys, if you are looking for any sort of way to help the podcast, support the show, go to ericashealthypet.com. And guess what? Not only are you supporting the show, but you are helping your loved animal, whether it be a cat or a dog. There's solutions for either of them on ericashealthypet.com. There's chicken jerky, beef jerky, cheesy bites, itch relief shampoo, among other things. There's so many different products to go check out at ericashealthypet.com. Use code LB20. 20% off your first order. You're supporting the show, and you're getting your loved creature of choice a tasty little snack and or topical solution.
Never called my dog a creature before. That's
crazy. They are creatures.
They are. I mean, you're not wrong. I've just never said it. I'm going to start calling that. Yeah, and tell my wife to feed the creatures.
Feed the creatures. I mean, that's what they are. If you get down to brass tacks, dogs are creatures. Go check out ericashealthypet.com. Code LB20, 20% off your order. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Go check it out. Let's jump in and talk about Daniel Jones, because he is where I want to start with today, Scotty. The Thursday night game, the Cowboys won this game 20-15 against the Giants. I think I'm going to say something. I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I genuinely, just looking at the landscape here, I don't know what the solution is. I think Daniel Jones is going to be a Giant next year. I really do. Because if you watch this game, I'm going to preface by saying this. Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. I've never believed that Daniel Jones has been an elite upper echelon quarterback, but I watched him on Thursday night, and do you know what I saw, Scotty? I saw a quarterback that was usable. He was not making elite, high-level, high IQ, high-caliber plays. Daniel Jones didn't cost the Giants this game. I mean, he kind of did because obviously they lost, but he didn't do too much. He didn't try to do too much. He did enough to keep the Giants in competition. He looked, I don't want to say competent, but he did look competent back there. He looked okay. And I think that if the Giants don't have a top 5 pick, I think they're going to have to take Daniel Jones. And even if they do have a top 5 pick, do you just throw that top 5 quarterback out there? I really do think that Daniel Jones probably will be the starting quarterback for the Giants at least partway through next year. And if he continues to play the way that he did this last Thursday against the Cowboys. Because
that's an important stipulation, because that's the thing about Daniel Jones is he'll go out and be the best quarterback in the NFL one week and rush for 100 yards and throw for 250 yards. And then the next week he'll throw 4 interceptions and make himself look like a doofus and always has the potential to break his neck on any given play. So, you know me, I've been as much of a supporter of Daniel Jones as it's possible to be in 2024. The bottom line is this Giants organization is not going to attain the success that they want to hit with Daniel Jones at quarterback. I really think that's true. And I also think it's true that Daniel Jones has been screwed by the fact that this Giants organization has given him nothing to work with. We see now with Malik Neighbors, they got a little bit of a weapon here. They can put some drives together.
A bit of a weapon.
Yeah, so they need more of that. And their offensive line has been playing a little bit better this year, but still not up to the caliber that they need to make sure Daniel Jones is performing. Because the bottom line is he's just not a great quarterback. So you have to be like supplementing him at every turn, and they just don't have the ability to do that right now. I really think the Giants have just been, ever since they paid Daniel Jones, they've just been kind of postponing this rebuild. They're like, all right, we got a quarterback who seems like he can work. We had Saquon Barkley at the time. Let's just run with it and see what we can do. The experiment's over. I think it's time. They need to just do everything they can to just start from scratch. They've got this rookie wide receiver they can build around, but I don't know what the solution is either. It's like the situation is so bad that it's going to be very difficult for them to completely turn everything around in a short period of time. So whether or not he stays on the team, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they have the out after this year, if they take the out. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Daniel Jones is like the prototypical NFL backup quarterback.
Let's play a game of Would You Rather, quarterback edition. And which quarterback would you rather have for your organization? Obviously, Daniel Jones is going to be the first quarterback that we're going to discuss. Alongside him, would you rather have Daniel Jones or Zach Wilson?
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones or Malik Willis?
So far, based on what we've seen, still Daniel Jones, because we've only seen a couple games of Malik Willis.
Okay.
He looks all right.
Jones, he looks okay. Will Levis?
I'd put them in right about the same boat. I think Will Levis has shown us through a few games last season that he can be competent and he can put some games together, but he's also in a situation where, especially this year, okay, they don't have Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins is a billion and doesn't seem like he's going to be hit and miss depending on the week. They don't have a lot of weapons around him either. I think they're pretty similar in terms of their upside. I'd probably take Will Levis because he doesn't have the injury history.
Daniel Jones or Bryce Young?
Oh. I don't know what to think about Bryce Young.
Well, my point being with the Bryce Young one is Bryce Young, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say the Panthers are smart because they're not. But they sold the farm for this kid, and he's sitting on their bench after 20 games, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is that we saw the Panthers do. We it's fun to shit on the Panthers because it's really easy.
So much fun.
But the Panthers did, I think, make a good and swift decision with Bryce Young. They weren't playing this game that the Giants played with Daniel Jones of, okay, we know he's got potential. Let's just keep him. And no matter what, we're running with him. With Bryce Young, they're like, we gave him a season. We didn't see development. We gave him a couple games. All right, he's fucking done. He's out of there. Let's move on. And I think ultimately that swift action does end up helping the organization in the long term, even though it's painful right now. I think that would probably be smart for the Giants to do.
What pick did they have? What pick did Malik Neighbors go? 6?
Something like that. Pretty close.
I mean, 6. Malik Neighbors was a 6th overall pick. Okay. There's a very realistic possibility that, and we'll see what happens by the end of the year. I mean, the Panthers probably are going to have the first overall pick. Let's just say hypothetically the Giants are 6 again, which is probably realistic. I mean, they may be better. We'll say 3 to 6 because the Panthers are probably going to take the first pick.
Mm-hmm.
You took Malik Neighbors. You could have taken, like, you were going to have to trade up no matter what to get it. And so my point being is, like, I don't know. I don't know. And that's really, I think that's going to, this whole conversation is going to be determined with what pick they have going into the offseason. Because if they win some games, if Daniel Jones can win himself some games, I think he's won himself more time because they're going to be out of draft capital to try and re-roll at a quarterback. They were very, like, the Giants were very open about wanting to go and get a quarterback this last draft, and then they got Malik Neighbors, which was a great pick for him because Malik Neighbors has looked like the best wide receiver out of this rookie class thus far. But they wanted to go get a quarterback, they just couldn't afford it. And so, like, what teams are going to be looking for a quarterback next year? And you know, a lot of that's going to be determined by what pick they have, and you know, can they sell it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I really do think that it's time for those in the Giants organization to accept the fact that, number one, they need to rebuild, and number two, it's not going to be a one-pick fix. You're not going to go get a star quarterback out of this draft no matter how much you do, and he's going to come in and change everything. It's not going to happen. They need to start thinking 3-4 years down the line. And so I think with that in mind, get rid of Daniel Jones now, offload that contract while you can when you have that out, get some extra picks, try and make some moves, and plan for 3 years down the line. And no matter what position you have in the draft, that needs to be the outlook now instead of trying to win right now, which it's seemingly what they tried to do. They tried to scrap something together to be competitive this year, and you know, I guess I don't blame them for doing that, but now it's time to be realistic about the short-term future.
Okay, let's talk about the short-term future. Is Brian Daboll a part of that future, in your opinion? Because there's been a lot of conversation about should Brian Daboll continue to be the head coach for this organization. I have my thoughts, but I want to know yours.
Yeah, I think you and I are going to agree that Brian Daboll isn't the problem there. But the issue is, if you move on from Daniel Jones, I think there's a complete restructuring. I think GM goes, I think head coach goes, I think quarterback goes, and I think you start from scratch. And I don't necessarily agree with that because I think Brian Daboll has proven himself throughout his career to be a winning head coach or a winning coach. But the problem is you don't want to pick up some rookie and then, bam, you're screwed. If you don't win a bunch of games, then the conversation surrounding Brian Daboll is even larger. Now you have a rookie with one head coach, and then you just fire him and get a new head coach. So I think if you go into the rebuild with the idea that we're planning for 3-4 years down the line, you get rid of everybody, you start from scratch. That does include Brian Daboll. I
don't want it to happen that way because I think Brian Daboll's a good coach. I really do. I think, you want to talk about some position changes, though. I think that the Giants general manager should get fired because he, as you alluded to earlier, he hasn't done anything to help this organization at all. And the Saquon Barkley leaving and going to the Eagles, you should be genuinely embarrassed about that because Saquon Barkley was your team. And I don't blame Saquon for leaving at all because I wouldn't want to stick around for that either. But, what have you done all these years to try and support and build a winning program? You have done nothing. So I do think the GM should go. I think Brian Daboll is a great offensive mind, and I think that he's never been given any tools to help them succeed. Yeah. So I'm fine with Brian Daboll getting fired. I'll take him as an offensive coordinator over the Cardinals. That would be wonderful. So
100%. It'd be cool, actually, to see him go back to the OC role because I think he's going to find success, especially if he goes to a good franchise. It'd be kind of cool to watch that happen and see him have that, resurgence in his career of being able to go back to doing what he does best, devising offenses, whispering to quarterbacks and making them better all of a sudden. That'd be cool, and I'd be fine with it.
What you're speaking of is very much Cliff Kingsbury with the Commanders. That's exactly what happened, and we'll get to that game in a little bit. But very similar situation, and look at how the Commanders are playing right now. So, let's go over to Aaron Rodgers. Is he the new running back one for the Jets?
He might be. If I told you, we didn't talk about it on the podcast because we're not Nostradamus, but if I were to tell you that you should put money on Aaron Rodgers outrushing Breece Hall by 5 times Breece Hall's rushing yards because Breece Hall had a total of 4 on 10 carries.
Against who? I'm sorry?
Broncos. In reality, this game was disgusting because the weather was terrible. The Jets have sucked in the rain for as long as I can remember outside of a couple games. They just always suck in the rain. And so I don't know. They need to put a dome up over that field. But if I were to tell you that Aaron Rodgers was going to outrush Breece Hall, you'd think you were crazy. But Breece Hall in this game was totally unusable. And this has kind of been a recurring theme. Obviously Breece Hall is amazing. I'm not going to say he's not. But we have some serious things to discuss with Braylon Allen because Braylon Allen looks freaking incredible. That dude, he's 19 years old and he's just out here smoking kids in the NFL. He looks so good. So from a fantasy perspective, are you nervous if you got some shares of Breece Hall?
I do have some shares of Breece Hall, and I absolutely am. I don't want to say I'm nervous because I still think I'm not hitting the panic button, but I'm a little frustrated because Braylon Allen is good, and I don't own any shares of Braylon Allen. He does look really good. It was funny. He was asked, why did you fall so far in the draft? And he goes, because people wanted to judge me by my football performance by how fast I run in my underwear when he was talking about the combine. So... which is, I get it. I think there's a lot more to NFL football than the combine, and obviously that he's showing it right now, right? I am a little concerned, but not hitting the panic button because I do think Breece Hall is a very talented running back, and unless things have just completely, his screws are all loose in his head and he's forgotten how to play football, which I don't believe to be the case, I think he's fine. I think he still is the running back one for that team, and his pass catching ability, aside from this Broncos game, is still very relevant, and he's playing with arguably one of the greats, So I'm fine with it. It's a really not a great look. But a lot of this could be the Jets coaching too. You want to talk about coaches on the hot seat, man? Is Robert Saleh? Is he on the hot seat?
Which is so sad because I think you and I have talked about this before. You just listen to him talk. He seems like the kind of guy who would just be a kick-ass football coach. And I'm not a Jets fan. I don't follow everything that goes on with that organization. But man, do Jets fans hate Robert Saleh. They really do. And even Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if you saw the little post-game press conference where they talked to Saleh and he's like, yeah, we might need to start rethinking this hard count, which is what Aaron Rodgers is famous for. He's got more touchdowns on free plays than any quarterback in NFL history. And Aaron Rodgers is like, well, you could do that, or you could just hold the guys who jump off sides accountable, because we do this every day in practice and we do this every game. And this game, for whatever reason, they decided to jump off side or to false start 5 different times, which, like, that says to me, like, Aaron Rodgers has said before that there's no issue with the coaching staff. Everybody's getting along. It's the greatest thing ever over there in New York. But it seems like maybe that's just not the case.
There was that, was it last week or 2 weeks ago now? He was coming off the field after a touchdown, and like Robert Saul, I think, went to like go give him a hug, and like he held him at arm's length, and the look on the face he gave him was like, "Don't fucking touch me! Like, what are you doing?" And it begs the question: is Aaron Rodgers about to out his head coach and get his whatever head coach he wants? And I think about. What comes to mind is Tom Brady, right? And there's just been this joking, half bickering thing between him and Baker Mayfield going around right now about Baker Mayfield. The Bucs brought Baker in because people want to have fun with football again, and Tom's like, he commented back on that, and he goes, and Baker was saying that the previous regime was not having fun when Tom Brady was there. And Tom Brady said, look, we're not here to fucking have fun. This is not a babysitting place. We are here to win Super Bowls, and that's what's fun. Like that's what I came to do. So it's kind of interesting, and I bring this up because, does Aaron Rodgers not have some of that mentality as far as like, this is a business. We are here to perform at a high level, get rid of the bullshit, hold people accountable. I'm here to win. Like, I'm not here because, I love the Jets. I love wearing this uniform. I'm here to fucking win. Right. And if you're not going to hold people to the highest standard, then I'm going to, and you're not going to like it because it's going to create this disarray that we're now discussing. Right.
Which that's music to my ears. That's exactly how football coaches and football players should be. I mean, I understand you play a game for a living, you should have fun, and I'm all for that. But within the realm of reason, because you still have to perform at the highest level that exists on planet Earth when you're playing this game, which means these stupid penalties like jumping off sides, false starts, all this stuff, holding, like just clean up the stupid shit. And honestly, like I said, this game was a rain game. I'm not putting too much stock into it because the weather was absolutely shit. I do think the Jets are still a good team. I look at their roster on the defensive side and the offensive side, and this is a very good football team, and I think they're going to win a lot of games, and they're a playoff team. And so I'm not putting too much stock into this. And plus, the Broncos just seem to, they're getting a little bit of a habit of being kind of frisky in games where people don't expect them to be frisky.
That's true. And I my feelings on the Broncos and Sean Payton, so we'll leave it at that. Let's go over and talk about Caleb Williams in the Bears game, because the Bears won this game 24-18, and I was thinking about this weekend. We have MK, who is on the other show that we do, or we have here under the LeatherBrainz umbrella, and we were texting back and forth on our group chat with him, and I said, he's a Bears fan. I said, do you want the Bears to win this game when it was getting close? I said, or would you prefer the Rams to win this game? And as a Bears fan, he's like, dude, the Bears, duh. But I'm sitting here thinking as an unbiased party and who hasn't, I have skin in the game as a Cardinals fan because the Rams are in the same division as I am. But I kind of wanted the Rams to win because I want Eberflus out of there. Like this whole Bears coaching staff needs the fucking boot. It is so bad. It is so bad. I think Caleb Williams has not looked incredible with the Bears, but I see the talent on the field. Like I see him as a player, and I'm just like, your coaching staff is doing you no favors to try and set you up for success right now at all.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and the other side to this, because I agree with you, especially on the offensive side, Eberflus has done a great job with this defense. This Bears defense has come a long way over the last few years. So Eberflus has done a good job with the defense, but at the end of the day, he's the head coach. He's responsible for everything. And this offense, like, there's so much talent. And the biggest problem is this offensive line, they're competing with the Patriots for the worst offensive line in football. Like, it's just so embarrassingly terrible that Caleb Williams is being asked to be Superman behind the line of scrimmage because he's got half a second to decide if he needs to extend the play or sit in the pocket and make a throw. And like nobody is capable of succeeding in that environment. And given that fact, Caleb Williams has played pretty well. Now, we got to work on his celebrations a little bit because holy shit, did you after this game, Caleb Williams is running off the field and he kind of does his little prance off to the sideline, and then he does this like jump double fist pump thing. And he looked like a toddler, like at a bounce house or like a Chuck E. Cheese or something that just won something out of the claw machine. Like, holy shit. Like, Caleb Williams, you're
hyped,
on.
Dude. He's hyped.
I mean, he's
they
hyped.
They shouldn't have beat the Rams. Granted, the Rams' entire entire team really is on IR at this point.
Yeah, no, the Rams are the Rams are in rough shape. But a win is a win. But at the end of the day, Caleb, you got to let your play on the field do the talking, and stop with the nail polish, and stop with the purses, and stop with the toddler celebrations. Just
I'm fine with the
football.
nail polish. You seem to hate the nail polish. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I think it's okay. I think it's a new generation that is embracing nail polish. I'm not going to put nail polish on myself, but if you want to wear nail polish, I don't care. I think you could do some creative things there that, while I'm not necessarily a supporter of, I'm not going to be against. I just think it is what it is.
If you're winning a shitload of games and dominating the league, then I probably won't say anything about your nail polish. But until that happens,
I don't think you would.
Stop with the nail polish.
I don't think you would. I think Shane Waldron is probably I don't think Eberflus is a good head coach. I think he's great defensively, and as you kind of mentioned, that defense has looked really good. The offense, however, has looked absolutely atrocious. There are things you can do in scheme to try and at least build the confidence in this young quarterback, and you're not doing it, and that's a problem. And he looks like he is running for his life. Almost every single play, as soon as that ball is snapped, that dude is in a panic about where's the pressure coming from, because his blocking is terrible. So
yeah.
In the Rams' defensive line is not that great. It's not like Aaron Donald's not there anymore, and what a game this would be if Aaron Donald was there. But all's to say, you haven't helped your rookie quarterback here, and it sucks. I wish for the Bears, and I'm like I mentioned, I'm not a Bears fan. I want him out of there. I want Eberflus gone. I want Shane Waldron gone. I want them to get a competent offensive mind in there, because the unit that you have on offense, aside from your shitty offensive line, is really good. And you shouldn't be pressured as much as you are, because there are so many weapons and you're just not utilizing it. So it sucks. It sucks to see. Okay.
Hypothetical question. We got one of the greatest offensive minds in history sitting on the sidelines right now in Bill Belichick. Would they be a good mix, though?
No,
I don't think they would.
Absolutely not.
You imagine Bill Belichick standing in the locker room and Caleb Williams walks in and puts his purse down and his nails are painted. What do you think Bill Belichick would say about that?
I think Bill Belichick's coaching days are over. I genuinely do think he will not coach anymore. Dude, he's all in the media now. That's what it is. He's doing the Pat McAfee show. He is doing Sunday analysis for things. He's done coaching, which
he's even on InstaFace. InstaFace.
I don't know what that is.
That's what he said. He called Instagram InstaFace a long time ago, and now he's got an account.
Okay,
he's online.
There you go. Yeah, he's plugged in. Welcome to the 21st century, Bill. I don't think he will coach anymore. I think there are other coaches out there that are great coaches that will have an opportunity to hopefully take hold of this Bears offense, because this is going to be a continual conversation throughout the rest of the season. Is the Bears are going to look shitty, and eventually heads are going to start flying. And I do think that I would not be surprised if Matt Eberflus is not the head coach starting next season at all, because this was a conversation we were having at the end of last year, and they drafted Caleb Williams, and it hasn't looked great so far. So wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. I will say that there is another rookie quarterback that has looked amazing, and his name is Jayden Daniels.
Oh, yeah, bro. Jayden Daniels is wild. The Commanders have punted one time in 3 weeks. One time. Jayden Daniels is breaking rookie records. He looks like C.J. Stroud did last year. Obviously, a different play style, but that's the same thing that we were saying. Is holy shit, his completion percentage is 82% through 4 weeks. What the fuck? This guy looks incredible. But the big story here, love Jayden Daniels, but they played your Cardinals, so I want to hear your thoughts about it.
I just have written down here, insert thoughts of despair and sadness is really what I have here. The hope that I once felt to start the season is gone, Scotty. This team, it's gone. It's fucking gone.
Damn.
It was there. There was a spark of excitement and lust and fun and power, and then it left me. This team is not good. And everybody under the sun knew that the Cardinals were not a great team, but I was hoping that we were going to see signs of rebuilding, and what I watched this last week was just a fucking poor excuse for a football game. It absolutely was. Jayden Daniels, and I'm not taking anything away from Jayden Daniels. That kid is legit. I think the Commanders are on the up and up. If you have not watched the Commanders this year, I highly recommend you watch them in this upcoming game, because it's about to be a slaughterfest. The Commanders are a good football team. I really like a lot of the things that they've done this offseason. Dan Quinn, to me, is still a question mark, or was a question mark. But what
He
I
just
really
looks like a doofus.
he kind of does.
Problem.
He really does.
He's got a doofus. He looks like a high school powerlifting coach.
Yes, that is a great way to describe the way he looks for all of those that are listening. But what I do like is that he went and got Cliff Kingsbury. And, Cliff Kingsbury, dude, you want to talk about a great offensive mind. I think that obviously Cliff Kingsbury used to be the head coach for the Cardinals. So this was kind of a reunion of sorts where he got to go back to and play against the team that he was once the head coach of. A lot of history there, obviously. But what I liked about it is the fact that, when the Commanders brought Cliff Kingsbury on, you look at the archetype of player that Jayden is, and it's very similar to all of the quarterbacks that he's coached and found success with. Kyler Murray. Our offense was largely electric when he was there from an offensive standpoint. He coached Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's coached Baker Mayfield. He's coached Caleb Williams. He knows how to use the mobile quarterback to his advantage. And Baker Mayfield, you can maybe put a little bit of an asterisk there, but for the most part, he knows how to coach good quarterbacks, and he knows how to coach a good offense. And so I think he was in over his head when he was the head coach for the Cardinals. I think it kind of the full job duties escaped him in some ways, but from an offensive standpoint, the guy's a fucking genius. And to watch him do what he is doing with the Commanders, they are going to be very successful. Put him into an offense, let him run the offense, let everybody else deal with all the extra bullshit. And the Commanders are clicking. And the Cardinals are not. We're not clicking. Kyler Murray is a prima donna fucking baby. It's so annoying to watch. It is. You talk about leadership, and you want a stoic leader from your quarterback. Kyler Murray's not that, and we've known that. But it's dude, you're a veteran on this team. Kyler Murray's an athletic freak, and what they did for him this game was embarrassing. They didn't do anything. They tried to make him into a pocket passer, which he's not. He is a mobile quarterback. He utilized his legs, stretch the defense, do the things that even I, as an NFL fan and podcaster, know. Do those things, and they weren't. It was embarrassing. It was frustrating, and I don't have a lot of hope and our defense was horrible. Our defense looked fucking just disgusting. Everything. It was you needed 3 people to bring one guy down every single time. Nobody gave a shit. It's embarrassing, and it's frustrating. And that's where I'm at. The season's over. Write it off. We'll try again next year. Fuck it.
Let me, from an outside perspective, someone with no stake in the Cardinals, though I do like it when the Cardinals are good. And I want Kyler Murray to be good because he is electric to watch. When that offense is clicking, it's very fun.
Yeah.
When I watch the Cardinals, it's which offense are you going to get per drive? It's not like they put together full games. It's when they get Marvin Harrison Jr. rolling and Kyler Murray is scrambling outside the pocket and making plays, they look like they're unstoppable. And then there are entire several series in a row where it's they just forget that Marvin Harrison Jr. exists and they just don't even look his way at all. And it's when Marvin is involved, the offense is good, and when he's not involved, the offense is terrible. So maybe there's some hope that they say, hey, turns out our first-round pick is actually pretty freaking good. We should maybe keep him involved as often as possible, and the offense performs well.
Yeah, I think our offensive coordinator is a dipshit. The only person that I think cares on this team whatsoever is James Conner. I think that is the only human being on that offense that truly gives a fuck. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I'm sad. I'm frustrated, and I want to see a better performance.
So are you buying all? Who's your secondary team? You always have a team that you're kind of rooting for success.
The Lions.
It's still the Lions?
Dude, it's always going to be the Lions.
Okay, but the Lions are good enough now that we can hate them. They're at the point where it's this team's good. I want them to lose.
That's the Chiefs that you're
Yeah, I understand the Chiefs are also in that category, probably more so than everybody else, obviously. Yeah. But the Lions have crossed that threshold to when they go out, we expect them to be really good. And that makes me want to see them lose because you like it when underdogs win.
I do. Well, yeah, and the Lions are still until the Lions get a ring for me. They're the underdogs. Once they get a ring, then I don't care anymore.
You might be.
That's kind of how I felt about the Rams. I don't know, man. We'll see.
Maybe they have potential, as we know.
I don't know. I was really optimistic for the Colts this year, and Anthony Richardson. I don't know what the fuck's. I'm swearing a lot this episode.
Shh,
I don't know.
Keep swearing, bro. Let it loose.
I don't know what's going on with Anthony Richardson, man. I really don't. This. I thought the Colts were, Anthony Richardson got hurt last year. They kind of benched him or they had him heal and set out for the rest of the year. He came back this year. Everybody was really high on him, including myself. I thought Anthony Richardson was going to. He's only played 4 NFL games up to the start of this season, right? So he's
played
learning
like 13 total games in his life. Like he's always been injured since he was a young child.
I know. And now he even got injured in this game against the Steelers where the Colts won this game. It was a close game. Colts win 27-24 against the Steelers, which honestly, I didn't even know the Steelers were capable of putting up 24 points in a game. So congratulations to them. But Anthony Richardson, he got hurt for like a moment, came out of the game, went back into the game, got kind of rolled up again, went out of the game, didn't even go to the medical tent. He went straight to the locker room. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, something is crazy is happening. Joe Flacco comes out here, looks great. Like, I mean, he should be the Browns quarterback one. He plays the rest of the game. Anthony Richardson comes back out on the field and is actively cheering and rooting and like into the game, but he's not playing. He doesn't have really, I think he's got like bruised ribs, I think is what they determined he had. Something not like long-term injury concern. And Joe Flacco finishes out the rest of the game and looks a hell of a lot better than Anthony Richardson does.
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, Shane Steichen. I don't know if he took out a hit on Anthony Richardson or what. Maybe he was placing some side bets on how long this kid was going to be active. But Anthony Richardson gets a hit kind of weird. He immediately is holding like his side or his hip or whatever. Like he's very clearly in pain. They take him out for a couple plays. Then they decide, all right, we're going to send you back in. And what's the first play we're going to run? We're not going to hand it off. We're not going to throw a screen pass or whatever. No, we're going to call a quarterback draw immediately. So he gets hit immediately and then just stays down. And it's like, dude, what the hell are we doing here? Like this is supposed to be your franchise quarterback, and you're like, he's beat up a little bit. Let's call his number right away. That's crazy. Like that's ridiculous. But here's the thing. I was watching the game. I made fun of Steichen because I was like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then Joe Flacco just lights the league on fire like he always does. Joe Flacco is better than half the starting quarterbacks in football right now. Like he was like that last year too. He just comes out and you're like, oh, this guy can run any offense and do it really, really well. Like, why don't we just pay him to play? Probably because he's old. 50, but.
Yeah, because he's old. But like he's able to get it done. The Browns should have done it. Like by this point, do you think if Joe Flacco was still in the Browns right now, we might be seeing him rolled out next week?
No. I don't know when we're talking about the Browns if we are, but this game for the Browns was not Deshaun Watson's fault.
We're not talking about the Browns today.
All right, we can throw it in here then. Yeah. This one wasn't Deshaun Watson's fault. Deshaun Watson had one pick. It hit his receiver in the face. He popped it up in the air. Like, Deshaun Watson played okay. But this entire Browns team is just deflated. I think you could probably put that on the shoulders of Deshaun Watson to some degree, probably to a large degree. But this whole team is just bad, which is crazy because they actually have a pretty good roster. You know, they've obviously had success in the recent past. But this team is just so bad. And we're at the point now where it was like, when Nick Chubb comes back, maybe this could be friskier. And now it's like, I don't think Jesus Christ himself is going to save this organization.
He's practicing tomorrow. Nick Chubb will be practicing.
They're crossing their fingers that he brings all the juice because right now this team just looks like they walk out of the locker room defeated. They look like they're going to lose immediately. And this is an offense that put up points on the first 2 drives of this game, and they didn't sniff the end zone the rest of the game, which is ridiculous with the players that they have on this team.
Yeah, and going back to the Colts Steelers, like Anthony Richardson is going to get rolled out next week, and I don't know if he's bad or not. Like, I don't know. The thing when it comes to a rookie quarterback, and Jayden Daniels and CJ Stroud have they're proving a counter argument against what I'm about to say, but why do you roll out a rookie quarterback, right? Like, why do you roll them out? Why do you not give them time to develop? And I've kind of talked about this with both Caleb Williams and Bo Nix, and Michael Penix is a good example of somebody who is going to get to have time to sit back and watch it because there's so much extra pressure that you put on a rookie quarterback aside from success. It's like you're taking the whole franchise and really putting it on their shoulders as a 21-year-old kid. Like, that's a shit ton of pressure versus Michael Penix. He gets to kick up with his feet kicked up and just watch and get to learn and get to have conversation and get to sit behind Kirk Cousins and figure out the best way to do this. So that way, when it's his turn, he actually has some grace and hopefully some more knowledge in his mind about how to play this damn game. Look at Jordan Love, right? You know, so all's to say, like, and then you have these outliers like Jayden Daniels or CJ Stroud last year, but it's like Richardson, obviously he had last year, so he has another year under his belt, but he only played 4 games last year. So I don't know if Anthony Richardson is good. I really don't, because the guy's got a cannon. The guy's huge. He's really fast, but he misses everything he throws. His ability to read a defense doesn't seem like it's there.
It doesn't exist. And that's the thing with, your point is well taken, but it is especially true with someone like Anthony Richardson, just because he didn't play that much football. Like, he was injured so often that he just doesn't have the experience that even most college quarterbacks have coming into the NFL. So to expect him to get in there and just pick up this game, there are some players that could handle that because their natural talent is so significant, and Anthony Richardson certainly is an athletic freak, but his arm talent just isn't there. His ability to read a defense just isn't there, and so he's just airmailing these passes, and as a result, you have him running a huge percentage of the time, which is great because he's gigantic and can do awesome things, but we've seen in his past exactly what that causes, which is Anthony Richardson misses more time and doesn't get those reps and can't develop because he's on the sideline. And meanwhile, you have people like Michael Pittman Jr. who are just totally unusable in this offense with Anthony Richardson. It's just not a cohesive situation. They're not going to find success with that. And they're going to have some exciting games because Richardson is fun to watch. But at the end of the day, they have to figure something out. They have to find a way to either keep him in games so he can develop over time, or they got to get him out of there and let him develop on the sidelines, because what they're doing right now is just a recipe for disappointment, and it's going to bring down the franchise going forward.
I thought Shane Steichen was going to be the key to unlocking this, right? Because we saw what he did with Jalen Hurts, and honestly, that year Jalen Hurts looked the best Jalen Hurts has ever looked, is when Shane had quote unquote unlocked him and really made Jalen Hurts a dual threat quarterback at the highest level that he's ever played. And now the Eagles lose 16 to freaking 33 against the Bucs without Shane Steichen.
This makes me so mad. I don't care about the Eagles at all, and even less so than before, because now they don't have Jason Kelce. As a Chiefs fan, I kind of had that connection. I was like, Kelce brother, I want him to be good. I want him to have success. Sirianni pissed me off when they beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead, and he's screaming and talking shit walking into the tunnel, and I'm like, bro, okay. Maybe when you have a little bit more success than the one outlier season, you can talk shit, but right now you can't. So he's kind of rubbed me the wrong way ever since then. This game just solidified that. Eagles fans have hated Sirianni for a long time. I've always been, not my favorite, but he doesn't drive me that crazy. Watching this game, if you were a head coach and you have 3 star players on your offense, 3 that aren't the quarterback, you've got a great wide receiver 1, you've got a great wide receiver 2, and you've got a star running back. And then all of a sudden you find out, oh, your wide receiver 1's going to be out. Your wide receiver 2 is going to be out. Who should you give the ball to, you think? Should you be throwing 15 passes to Dallas Goedert? Or should you give the ball to freaking Saquon Barkley because you don't have anybody else on the field? Saquon Barkley had 12 total touches in this game. That makes no sense whatsoever. The first 3 drives, Saquon touched the ball twice, and they all ended in punts. And then Sirianni was asked about it afterward, what happened in that first quarter? Why weren't you featuring your star running back? And he said, well, we saw a lot of third downs. We weren't going to run the ball. Okay, Saquon Barkley is good, not just because he can run the ball, but also because he's arguably one of the top 3 best pass-catching running backs in the game of football. You can use him on third down. I don't know if that's news to you, Nick Sirianni, but you can use him on third down. This is ridiculous that it played out this way.
I still don't know how I feel about Nick Sirianni. A lot of people hate Nick Sirianni. You were absolutely right, and especially Eagles fans. If you talk about, and Eagles fans are some of the harshest fans of the NFL. They're definitely up there. Can we not blame Kellen Moore a little bit for this? I mean, honestly, what are you doing? You look at, and granted, I mean, you mentioned it. You don't have AJ Brown. You don't have Devontae Smith. I understand that. However, what did Kellen Moore do when he was with the Chargers? What did Kellen Moore do when he was with the Cowboys? The Cowboys did find offensive success with Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore goes over to the Chargers. Obviously, we know the story that happened there. But what happened to Austin Eckler, the guy who was a dual threat running back? And I look, Saquon Barkley's a much better running back than Austin Eckler is. But also to say Austin Eckler wasn't a bad running back, and all of a sudden he had some injury issues and whatnot. But he largely was phased out of that offense entirely, right? I think Kellen Moore's part of the problem. I have not really ever bought into Kellen Moore as a great offensive mind, and I think it's showing a little bit this year. And that's not to say Nick Sirianni doesn't carry some of the blame, because I do think he does. But I think Kellen Moore also equally shares a lot of the problem here, because when you have a roster that is this talented and you are still not finding upper echelon elite success, you're part of the problem. And I think Kellen Moore is.
Well, preseason, this was an offense on paper that had potential to be the best offense in the NFL, especially with the 100%. Dolphins going through what they're going through right now. Like this team had potential to be the highest scoring offense in football. And granted, like we've said a million times, when your two of your best weapons are out, that's going to make it tough. But pregame, they should have all sat down in the freaking meeting room and on the whiteboard said, okay, how could we possibly find success against this frisky Bucks team? I know, let's give Saquon Barkley 35 touches. He needs to touch the ball on every offensive drive, and he needs to be the center of our offense, and then our defense has to show up. And they just decide, we don't need Saquon this game. Like, that's Saquon, when he did touch the ball, he averaged over 8 yards per carry. Like, it's not like they were all, the defense was keying on him and they couldn't do anything. When he touched the ball, he was moving the freaking ball. How does that not translate into at least 20 touches, 25 touches? It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, what you're saying about Kellen Moore, I agree with. At the end of the day, Nick Sirianni, if he's standing on the sideline watching his offense go and saying, hey, our best player, he hasn't touched the ball very much, he needs to go to Kellen Moore and say, give our best player the freaking ball, you absolute dipshit. Like, Sirianni needs to make that call. That's what the head coach is there for when he's not calling offensive plays.
No, I like I said, Sirianni definitely is. I think the seat's warming up rather quickly for him, but I think Kellen Moore is also part of the problem. And Sirianni was given a year, right? Like, he fired both his OC and his DC last year. Right, and he brought in Kellen Moore, and I forget the defensive coordinator's name, but also say, like, he was given time. He was given grace to be like, okay, go find the guys you need, and the guys that he found are not really pushing the agenda. And I do think that, A.J. Brown I think they kind of knew that there was some lingering injury. That, I mean, the Jahan Dotson trade is pretty indicative of that in my mind, but they just haven't done anything. Like, this offense does not look great. And I'm like, I thought this offense was going to be one of the most explosive offenses, just given the talent that is on this offensive roster, and it's not. I'm like,
we
what's
also
going
need to
on?
have the conversation about Jalen Hurts, because he had that one season where he looked incredible and he's the front runner for the MVP. Looked good at the beginning of last year. Then obviously this team completely fell off the cliff. Like, is Jalen Hurts just? He might need the perfect situation to be as effective as we've seen him in the past. And if there's any adversity whatsoever, it really seems like Jalen Hurts just might not totally be there as the guy. Obviously, he's played well enough that they're not moving on from him anytime soon.
Sure.
But I think we need to start asking questions as fans. Like, are we talking about him in like the above average quarterback in the NFL right now? I don't know if that's justified.
I think he's starting to move down in the rankings for sure. Like, I mean, he has to be, just given the state of play that he is currently playing at. Like, I mean, 2 years ago now, you would have put him at probably top 3. Like, at the way he was performing and playing at. I wouldn't do that now. Maybe top 5, maybe. I mean, like, you got Mahomes, you got Lamar, in no specific order, Lamar, you got Josh Allen. All three of those guys are well and above Jalen Hurts. And then, after that, maybe do you want to throw in Joe Burrow? Does you want to talk about health? I mean, that's a whole conversation in itself.
I think there's an argument that you could put people like Justin Herbert in front of him, because Justin Herbert obviously hasn't been performing either, but you can make the argument that Justin Herbert's he's had complete teams, but riddled with injuries. Like, he's never been able to have what Jalen Hurts has on a consistent basis. The best offensive line in football, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, now Saquon Barkley. Like, this team should be successful, and the injuries last week, obviously notwithstanding, but This team should have been finding success all throughout last season, and especially now with Saquon Barkley. Like, they should be a good offense, and you've never been able to say that about people like Justin Herbert. So, like, I think there's an argument that he's dropping down to that tier.
I wouldn't argue it, because I don't think the state of his play recently over these last few weeks has really made an argument for me to say, hey, this guy is still an elite top tier quarterback. I mean, obviously we've seen his ceiling now, or what we think to be his ceiling. Can he go higher? I haven't ever seen it since 2 years ago when they were playing the year they went to the Super Bowl. So I don't know, because I haven't seen it. And that's the problem. And the other thing I haven't seen, Scotty, and the one that really upsets me, is I haven't seen Mark Andrews do shit. Ravens win against the Bills 35-10. Absolutely incredible game. I mean, well, it wasn't an incredible game. It was a slaughter of a game by the Ravens. Incredible by the Ravens. But Mark Andrews, man, through 4 games, I'm going to read you a stat line, Scotty.
Lay it on me. Lay it on
6 receptions, 65 yards, 0 touchdowns, 6.5 fantasy points total in 4 games. And those stats, that's a stat line on the season, by the way. That's bad. Is Mark Andrews done? You drop him in fantasy? Like, I know we're not really fantasy focused at this point for the podcast, but I got to ask you dropping him in fantasy football if you own him for anything else? Because this kind of production, you could pick up a guy off the waivers and play him.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no explanation for what's going on with Mark Andrews. I have no idea. It seems like the offense is like dead set. First couple of weeks, you're like, okay, Mark Andrews is a crazy weapon. They're probably doubling him. I don't know. Now it's like, dude, this is 4 games of being non-existent. It's not like, oh, he had a couple bad games. No, he just doesn't exist at all. There were some, I have Mark Andrews in one of my leagues. And when I drafted him, I was like, hell yeah. Like, I got him at a good spot. I'm feeling great about it. And I have to, like, every week I have to look and say, is Mark Andrews injured? Like, is he even on the field? I don't know if he's even an option to throw to because he's just never getting the ball. And, Mark Andrews has got to be infuriated about it. This is a team that's, won some games, and I think they're going to be competitive down the stretch. So it limits the degree to which you would be disappointed if you're winning. But, man, going from being, like, talked about in the Travis Kelce conversation and then being totally non-existent on this offense, it's the opposite of what you expected to happen. Lamar Jackson's finally got some receiving weapons. This offense can finally move the ball without Lamar Jackson having to run every play. Like, oh, my gosh, it's going to open up the field for all these guys. The defenses aren't going to be able to key. Bam, Mark Andrews just disappears into the ether. I have no idea. Personally, from a fantasy perspective, I'm not going to drop him because I'm stubborn and I'm holding on to the hope. But, like, what the hell is going on? I have no idea.
The other thing that I want to talk about here is, what happened to the Bills? Like, 10-35. And look, the Ravens have been itching for a victory and itching to actually play a team and win. And they came in and they didn't win, Scotty. They demolished the Bills in this game. I mean, Tyrod Taylor, whoever the backup is, I think it's Tyrod, was rolled out in like 4 minutes left in this game. And they're like, all right, game's over. And they pulled all their starters. Is Josh Allen finally, like, are we seeing what happens when he doesn't have chemistry with his wide receiver group? Because this is, this group is not the same group he played with last year almost entirely, aside from Dalton Kincaid and James Cook.
Yeah. No, I think that the Bills have been very impressive up until this week with their offense and how they've clicked. It almost seems like getting rid of the diva Stephon Diggs actually made the offense better. It made them more diverse. They're more comfortable with running the ball a lot. Good.
Should we call him Stephanie Diggs?
Well, I don't know. He's been playing pretty well now. It seems like it's hard to talk shit on him because he's finding touchdowns all the time.
I know. I do just think he's a diva, too.
Yeah, 100%.
Once he starts falling off, if he doesn't retire in a good amount of time, I think we just relabel him.
Yeah, but okay. So this Bills team is interesting because I was, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that I wasn't overly high on the Bills. I wasn't sure how this team was going to look. They've made a lot of moves. They have a lot of unknowns. But through 3 weeks, they look pretty good. And the key to the Bills, and this has been, nothing's changed in this sense. The key to the Bills' success has been keep Josh Allen from playing hero ball. If you can keep him sort of within the realm of the offense and you don't have him just hucking the ball all over the place and trying to make stupid plays, like, this is a very good team, and they've always been a very good team. But the reason why they haven't been able to go to a Super Bowl is exactly that. Eventually, Josh Allen plays hero ball. That's what he did during this game. Like, you're watching the game, you're like, this guy is just hucking the ball down. He's just trying to make anything happen because the offense is frustrating. It's not working, and as a result, you get stupid plays. There are a couple times where it's like, second and 10, and instead of just trying to get 5 yards or 6 yards to make it third and manageable, Josh Allen's throwing the ball downfield. One of them was to Keon Coleman, who he should have caught it, but it was a tough catch. But, like, you're throwing the ball 40 yards downfield when you need 10 yards, and your offense isn't clicking. And eventually that happens to the Bills. And so I'm actually not overly worried with them because I think this is kind of more of the same. Like every now and again, they're going to have games where they just look completely atrocious, but they always bounce back and they're always competitive. So I still think the Bills are going to be good down the stretch. They haven't been able to cross that threshold and just be a consistently good team. It's just kind of hit and miss depending on the week.
Okay. Well, we started this conversation talking about the real Bills and the Ravens, talking about Mark Andrews. I want to talk about another tight end, Scotty, and his name is Kyle Pitts. You historically throughout the entire LeatherBrainz lifespan have repeatedly said Kyle Pitts no matter what. What point do we get rid of that saying and we just say Kyle Pitts is a bust?
Well, the whole point of the saying is you never get rid of it. I'm going to get it tattooed on my body. I got all these people in my mentions on Twitter saying, wow, producer Scotty, what is this garbage with Kyle Pitts? Why do you, like, listen, I don't know if you heard the saying. It's no matter what. I wouldn't have to say no matter what if Kyle Pitts was good all the time. Otherwise, it would just be obvious Kyle Pitts is good. But no, Kyle Pitts no matter what. Trials and tribulations. I'm sticking by his side. Love you, Kyle Pitts. This game, the problem with it was not Kyle Pitts. It wasn't Drake London. It wasn't Bijan Robinson. Obviously, the Falcons won. I'm talking about it like they all died.
Yeah,
no, they won
this
the
game 26-24. It was a good game against the Saints.
It was a good game. There was very little offensive production. And the problem with this game is that all of those players didn't get used. Like, it was ridiculous. Let me just tell you something for a second. Bijan Robinson was the only offensive player on this team with double-digit touches. He had 11 touches. They didn't use their weapons. They didn't get their weapons involved. They weren't able to get the offense rolling, which is ridiculous because I think I have it written down here. There was, it was Tyler Algier, or not Tyler Algier, I'm sorry. It was, I know I wrote it. Okay. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Darnell Mooney. They all combined for 9 receptions. Okay. When you have 3 players who are very good players and Bijan Robinson, and you don't have any offensive production, this is a coaching problem. And the Falcons have to figure this out.
I mean, Drake London had 12 targets. So, like, whether you catch it or not, obviously there's a lot that goes into that. And I don't have all the first-gen stats in front of me or whatever to be able to sit here and say, were they all catchable or not? Did he drop them? I don't know. But he got 12 targets. And all is to say, I don't know if Raheem Morris is the answer for the Falcons. I just don't get the warm fuzzies from him as a head coach. Like, just some of the stuff he's done, I think he's kind of wackadoo. I just think he's not what I would want in a head coach. I guess I'll say that. But this Falcons team, I'm glad they won. I don't really care for the Saints, but I really thought the Falcons were going to be absolutely electric this year because, and we talked about this all offseason. We talked about it last year, how they were a quarterback away from being a competitive team. I mean, I do think they've been competitive over the last few weeks. I mean, the Chiefs game, they were competitive. They're
here infinitely better.
They are. But, like, I expected explosiveness. I expected, like, this team to just be almost unstoppable from an offensive standpoint, and they really haven't been. And it's been close games. It's been rough football. It hasn't been, as beautiful as I had expected it to be. I don't know if Kyle Pitts is good at football. I don't know. Aside from his rookie season, Scotty, I love the fact that you're Kyle Pitts no matter what. I have not shared the same mantra as you, but I have supported you, or at least cheered you on from the sidelines. I think I'm going to put my pom-poms down. I think Kyle Pitts is a boom or bust tight end, just like the rest of them. I really do think that at this point. I mean, he's in the only way I think you're going to be able to change my mind at this point, Kyle Pitts, you have to put up at least 10 fantasy points because that's what we're all talking about here, right? Like Kyle Pitts, no matter what, we're talking about fantasy football. Kyle Pitts, you have to put up consistently 10 points in a 4-week span. And if you do that, I might be more interested in getting back on the Kyle Pitts no matter what train. But Kyle Pitts, at this point in time, I think you're a jag. You're just another guy.
Here's the thing. I think given the stats of this offense thus far, you could say that about everybody. You could say that about Bijan Robinson in this game.
Good. Absolutely.
Just a guy. And when you have all of these players that we know to be athletic freaks, and they're all making the argument that, oh, they're just a guy. They're not as good as we thought. When all of them are making that argument, it's not any one of their faults. This is a coaching problem. Before this, it was a quarterback problem, and that was clear. Now, this is a coaching problem. And there's still plenty of time. It's still very early in the season. There's still plenty of time for them to figure it out. Kirk Cousins is new to this organization. They had some linemen out. So there's a chance that this offense does get way better. But when you're talking about Drake London, we know he's explosive. He's a big-body wide receiver. He's got good hands. When you're talking about Darnell Mooney, who's been screwed throughout his career because he hasn't really had a quarterback, we know he's good. We know Bijan Robinson is a generational talent. I would put Kyle Pitts in that same conversation. We know he's a generational talent just from an athletic perspective, and they're all not finding success. Then it's a coaching problem. You can make the argument about Kyle Pitts if he's the only one not producing, but it's all of them that are not producing, and that is the coaching problem.
I'm not going to argue the coaching problem because I do think that, like, if you took there are some other coaches that come to mind that I think if you plug them into the Falcons, at least from an offensive standpoint, I think you get a much better looking offense. I mean, I think Arthur Smith is a joke of a human being, and I think he deserved to get fired, and I don't think he should ever be allowed to coach in the NFL ever again. But I don't know if Raheem Morris is the answer either, because I'm looking at this team and I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, where's the explosion? Where's like I don't know. There's just some other coaches that I think would be a much better fit for the caliber of team that offense has in it. Or
it's a similar conversation to the Eagles. Like, I mean, just looking at their roster,
sure,
they got better at every position. It just seems like they should have taken a big step. And granted, still early in the season, they've won some games. They've been competitive in almost every game. I still think they have a very good shot to win the division. Like they're a good team, but we expected it to be so obvious that they took this step forward that we haven't really seen offensively yet. And I'm still holding out hope that happens. But if that doesn't happen, to me, it's a coaching issue because of the level of talent on this roster. They have to find more success than 0 touchdowns. Like, that's crazy.
I will ride the train with you that I do think the Falcons, I hope that they get better, and I'm not out on that yet. Unfortunately, though, the train has departed, and I am still at the station on the Kyle Pitts no matter what. So he's got to prove it to me before I get back in there.
Not a true believer.
I'm not. Sorry, man.
I'm gonna pull a Dan Campbell once he starts performing. You're not welcome anymore.
No, that's fine. That's okay. I understand. Yeah, that's fine. You can do that, and I will accept that. I've gotten off this train. Let's talk about it, Scotty. Your Chiefs. Chiefs win this game 17-10, and Allen's not here, so you two usually rift off each other, and you get me today, who is going to be probably a little bit more unbiased than Allen would be.
Well, lucky for you, there's almost nothing good to say about the Chiefs outside of the fact that they won. They found a good way to win. But this team, man, like we have hopped in a time machine and we are just back to our offense from last season. Even worse because Rashee Rice is gone.
You want to start there? You want to talk about that? Let's talk about that. What?
Yeah. Here's what happened. Let me paint this picture for you. If you didn't watch the Chiefs game, let me paint this picture for you. Patrick Mahomes. Some argue he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. I would probably argue that. He made the worst play that we've ever seen happen on a football field. He chucks the ball downfield to a wide open receiver, except he overthrows him by 8 yards, and now it's an interception, which we've seen several times this year from Patrick Mahomes. He's got to reel it and figure it out. But then he decides, wow, the interception, that wasn't bad enough. Let me try and make this 1 billion times worse. And he goes over to try and make a tackle, and Rashee Rice is there. Rashee Rice, by the way, hit the ball free from the defender. He successfully forced a fumble on the defender, made an awesome play. And what was he rewarded with? Patrick Mahomes kneecapping him on the sideline. Rashee Rice, I don't know if I haven't heard any official news out yet. I know he had his MRI today, but all indications seem like he's probably going to be out for a very extended period of time, probably the season.
I would agree with that. And I've seen a lot of chatter of people saying good riddance. This is karma. Whether, we've said all the time we don't root for injury on this podcast, so I'm going to stand by that. No matter what your beliefs of Rashee Rice are and what he's done off the field, I still am not rooting for injury. That was tough to see. I mean, it really was. And now what do the Chiefs do? And this is really the conversation I want to have is where do the Chiefs go from here? Because Scott, they didn't look good in this game. They found a way to get it done. They haven't. I mean, you get down to it. The Chiefs have not looked great in this entire season. Really, the offense is kind of they're winning games. So it's hard to sit here and be like the Chiefs suck, but like they're not playing great. And you now lost your Rashee Rice, your wide receiver one. You've lost Isaiah Pacheco for the next few weeks until he comes back.
I think it's like 6 or 7 more weeks.
Yeah. Your wide receiver 2, I think, is hurt. I think.
Well, Hollywood Brown got injured in the preseason.
Yep. And so this team is. I have a proposition for you, and I don't know if you're going to love it, and I'm interested to see your thoughts. I've heard some chatter out on the World Wide Web. Amari Cooper. Would you do it for a 4th round pick, 4th or 5th round pick?
100%. At this point in time, we need someone competent. I would take DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins want to come back to the Chiefs or come to the Chiefs. We talked about that being a possibility a couple years back. I would take him. At this point in time, we need somebody. We're relying right now. Travis Kelce had a good game for the first time all year because there was nobody else, and we need that to continue. But he's 1 billion years old, and giving him 100 receiving yards a game is just a recipe for something terrible to happen. Like he does his best work. I know we talked about his lack of production the first 3 weeks. He does his best work being a decoy. He does his best work avoiding contact, forcing defenses to have to focus on him. That's where Travis Kelce shines in this latter part of his career. And when he is getting the workload through the air, it's a very dangerous game. Like he's kind of an old, brittle dude. And so we're relying on people like Juju Smith-Schuster and Sky Moore, like we should have cut him last year. That's how bad he's been. Like
but you need him now.
Atrocious. Yeah, we have no choice now. Like that's our receiving core. And normally we could feel good about falling back on Isaiah Pacheco. And I will say, Kareem Hunt, he looks like he took a time machine because he looked incredible. But I don't know if that's sustainable either. Like, we don't have anything to rely on offensively except for the fact that Patrick Mahomes always finds a way. And the reason he's been finding a way is because of Steve Spagnuolo. Like, we have, I think, the best defensive coordinator in football, and he has developed a young defense over the last 2 years into one of, if not the best defenses in football, and that's the reason we're winning games. Like, that's it. We're 3 plays away from being 0-3 going into this week. This game against the Chargers, which a dilapidated Chargers team that was missing everybody, we won by a touchdown. That's the first game this whole season that didn't come down to 1 play. So it's like, dude, we are flirting with disaster in Kansas City right now.
Brian Flores might give Spags a run for his money.
True.
Those
Flores
two
been
are
killing it.
Yeah, no, the Vikings have looked amazing. And they get another win this week, so I don't know, man. I mean, the Vikings look great, but also say the Chiefs, the three-peat's getting harder and harder to buy into. And everybody says that it's going to be really hard, and obviously you guys are still 4-0 or 3-0 or whatever the score is now. So that matters, right? But you beat the Ravens, which I think was huge. I think that was a really big win to start the year, but you're missing a lot of pieces right now, and your offense is not looking great. And I think that you might want to start knocking on some doors. I've seen some people say Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams gets traded. I think that it wouldn't be to the Chiefs because the Raiders probably want to see you fail. So that you would have to significantly overpay to get Devontae Adams. But man, would that be cool.
Yeah, and I don't think they're letting go of him. I think he's the glimmer of hope on their
you
team.
Think? I think they get to the. I think the Raiders are going to not be good. And I said this going into the season. I think that he'll get traded right around the deadline. I think that's what'll happen to Devontae Adams because he still does.
I'd be fine with it.
What's that?
I said I'd be fine with it, seeing him go to a competitive team.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think you should. Like, dude, what are you doing holding this freaking veteran? Like, Devontae Adams is still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and you're literally holding him hostage, making him play with a bunch of freaking middle school kids. Like, that's what you're doing right now, and it's like. I feel bad for the guy because I'm like, man, like he just wants to go win games and like play good football, and he's got to play with whatever the Raiders' offense is, and it just is sad to watch. And I'm like, I feel bad for the guy. Like, trade him for a haul, move on, let him go, and let him go get a ring because you're not going to do it with the Raiders.
I honestly wonder what the trade would be because, I think you and I can sit here and say Devontae Adams is one of the best in football still. But given his age and given his, he's had production by like high production by the Raiders standards, but it's not like he's been a part of a high-powered offense where he's really like blowing numbers out of the water. I don't know how other teams are going to react to that. Like, are they going to pay a whole shitload? All right, we had technical issues there, but we're back. I just don't know what another team's going to pay for someone like Devontae Adams.
No, and I don't either. Because he is old, right? And he's old by the stage of by the metric of NFL standards. Yeah. Thank you, geez. So like, yeah, he what does he garner for trade value, right? And that's where I think a lot of teams are going to have to make a lot of difficult decisions, because I do think he's still, like, the Raiders aren't going to want to sell him cheap, but also like take a third rounder maybe. Like, just take a third round. That's still really, I mean, that's a top 100 pick, and let him walk. And, you know, but I don't know if a team would want to spend a third round pick. I think they would have to be desperate for a top tier wide receiver, and they're going to try and go, quote, all in and make a push for it. And I don't know. It does suck, though. I wish that he was on a team that could utilize him a little bit better. Sorry, Yeti. Let's go over to Kickoff Karaoke, and then we'll get the heck out of here. So we'll start out with, and like I said, Alan's not here, so we did get his picks, correct?
Well, we did not get his picks, and at first I thought he was ignoring me, but then I realized that my phone was screwed up all day because Verizon, no free ads. I don't know if that's an ad. That's probably not an ad.
Yeah,
most of the time Verizon's very good, but today they had some issues. So I texted him, he didn't respond, and I didn't realize the problem. So we'll get his picks in before the games. So
then we'll just do you and I, and then we'll get him in and get it figured out. Let's start with the Bucks at Falcons. The Falcons are 2.5-point favorites. Scotty, you rolling with Raheem again this week, or?
This is tough because the Bucks, when they're on, they're on. And I haven't seen that from the Falcons yet. We haven't sat here and said when the Falcons are on, they're unbeatable. And the Bucks look like they're unbeatable when they're on. But they also have fallen off a little bit already within this 4 weeks. So this one is very tough. I think divisional game, home team already has the advantage. The Bucks are coming off a big win. I think they're feeling good about themselves. So I think the Falcons, in the minds of fans, obviously not to Vegas, but the minds of fans are kind of the underdogs here going into this game. So I think I'm going to take the Falcons, but I do not feel at all confident about this.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take the Bucks here. Because I haven't, well, first and foremost, I'm last here in the Kickoff Karaoke, so I got to be making some power moves. But I also do think the Bucks are going to win this game. I think that the Falcons, as you said, they really haven't put it all together, and the Bucks have had some spottiness here and there, but overall, I think the Bucks have looked pretty damn powerful, and the Falcons haven't put together 4 quarters that'll make me feel comfortable and say that they're going to win this game. So I'll take the Bucks. Yeah. Let's go to the Jets at Vikings. Vikings are 2.5-point favorites. Because I let you go first last time, I'm going to go first this time, and I will take the Vikings at 2.5. Look, man, I have discounted the Vikings all season long. Everybody
week.
Has. Every week. Going into the season, I said the Vikings are the worst team in their division. And it turns out they're one of the best teams in the NFL right now. Like, with a Sam Darnold as a quarterback. The Vikings have looked unbeatable. The Vikings have played aggressive, good football on both sides of the field throughout these 4 weeks and going into week 5. The Jets just lost to the Broncos. I do think that the Jets are going to play a little bit better. It was a rain game. Aaron Rodgers is probably angry. I saw him over on the sideline. He had a towel on his head, and he's looking all pissed off like a typical Jets player does. I don't think they win this game, though. I think that the Vikings win this game. I think that they've been playing too good of football. I'm done counting them out. I'm riding the Vikings.
Yeah, I think on paper, if we just pretend that the first 4 weeks of the season didn't happen, I think the Jets look like the better team. But the first 4 weeks of the season did happen.
It did.
And I think, again, I said this last week when I picked the Vikings, until they show me that they have a weakness, I have a hard time betting against them. Sam Darnold looks incredible. He looks like the front runner for the MVP right now. And this offense has a ton of weapons, and we all know that this defense might be the best defense in football. So they look like they don't have any weaknesses, and the Jets seem to have a lot of weaknesses, most of them in the heads of their coaches and players. So I'm going to roll with the Vikings, and we'll see. But I do think the Jets are going to come out explosive this week. I think they're pissed.
I think they are going to be pissed. Bills at Texans. Texans are 1.5-point favorites. Scotty.
I'm going with the Bills.
Going with the Bills.
I think this is a get-right game. The Texans have had a lot of weaknesses this year. We kind of built them up to be this superpower of a team from last season because we were all blown away by C.J. Stroud, and rightfully so. And also, the Texans might have the best receiver in football, it turns out. Nico Collins looks incredible. But I do think that the Bills are a top-tier team. I do think that when the game script is going their way, they're hard to beat. And Josh Allen is going to be mad. He's gonna come out wanting revenge on how bad he played. I think that the Bills are going to get right against a very good Texans team.
I agree with you. Actually, I had the Bills in this one as well. I think that this is a get right game for them after the Ravens' embarrassment this last week. And the Texans, while are a great team, have shown a lot of I've seen a lot of things that are like, you guys still have some things to fix, and I don't think they get it fixed this week in Week 5 here against a good Bills team. I'm rolling with the Bills as well, my friend. I think that's
we all bet on the Bills last week, and that did not go well for us.
Look, try again. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, still shame on me.
Shamed again.
Amen, baby. All right, last game here. Cardinals at 49ers. 49ers are 7.5-point favorites.
Yeah, the question here is not who's going to win the game. It's
who's playing the game.
That's a big spread, though.
That is a huge spread.
It's a big spread.
Scotty, I'm taking the 49ers, dude. Are you kidding me? Regardless of CMC is here or not, Jordan Mason has been certainly usable for that team. And while he is no Christian McCaffrey, still a great running back for him. And we saw what happened when, Debo is back on the field as well as George Kittle this last week. And the 49ers were dominant. They're going to continue to be dominant. I've gotten off the Cardinals train. Let me say this. I'm hovering. One foot's on the train and one arm's on the train, and I'm hanging off the side, and I'm just kind of thinking if I let go, all of my problems will vanish. So I'm still hanging on. But I don't think the Cardinals win this game. I think that, the way that they played this last week was embarrassing. Our defense still has a lot of work before we're even competent, and we're not going to get it done against this very difficult 49ers offense. And the 49ers defense is also legit. And if we play the whatever pansy-ass game we did this last week offensively as well, we just haven't been able to click. Like you said, and I really do, I love the way that you put this because I completely understand what you're saying. It's like, it's not, are they winning drive, or if it's not that they're winning like quarters or games and their offense clicks for an entire game. It's like, what possession are they like clicking on? Because like they'll click for a possession, it looks electric, and then the next one you're like, what the hell just happened? And it's like off and on. And you can't do that against a 49ers team. So give me the 49ers.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 49ers too. The 7.5 points, we've seen the 49ers, obviously, with the injuries that they've had, Christian McCaffrey not being there, which, by the way, great news. I just read a headline today. I didn't read the story, as most Americans understand. But I read the headline, and Christian McCaffrey, he's going to start training on solid ground instead of sand or water or clouds. I don't know what they had him training on before, but now it's solid ground. So that's great news, I guess. I have no idea. I have no idea when he's coming back. He had to fly halfway across the world to have a doctor look at him.
Have you ever been running on sand? Like, have you ever ran?
Yeah, it's hard. It's impossible.
It's very difficult. But
now
to say,
he's back to
he's
grass.
Grounded, baby. No,
yeah.
No, it's probably concrete. You want
maybe. I don't know. I don't think you go from sand to concrete. I think there's a middle ground of some dirt.
But we don't know if it was sand.
That's true. Maybe something soft though. Maybe he was running around in like a ball pit.
He's just in an inflatable ball running.
He's just training at Chuck E. Cheese. I don't know. But one thing that does make me nervous is this 49ers team. I think there is a world in which they win this game by way less than 7.5 points. I think I would put money on the 49ers winning.
Take the Cardinals.
I could see if the Cardinals. I'm not going to take the Cardinals. I'm not. I thought about it for a long time. The whole time we've been doing this segment, I've been thinking
7.5. That is a beefy spread.
Yeah, I could see this game being a field goal game, but I gotta go with my gut, which is Brock Purdy is proven himself, and he is a very good quarterback.
He is,
and there's just I'm gonna take the good quarterback in the good offense.
You think Brock Purdy's a top 10 quarterback?
Yeah.
Okay.
I sure do.
I think I agree.
I would put him above Justin Herbert.
I probably would too. And that's, I think, where we're going to conclude this episode. For all you Brainiacs that have made it to the end, genuinely appreciate it. I have one last request for you guys. Aside from going and checking out Erica's Healthy Pet using code LB20 for 20% off, go check out LeatherBrainz.com. We have some great articles over there. I just won some cheddar over there from one of our writers who provides us with sports betting. Every single week. It's free. It's 100% free. Go check it out. And we will be having a newsletter coming out here at some point. If you would like to subscribe to that, once again, it's 100% free. Go over to leatherbrainz.com. There is you put your email in there, you'll get on our email list, and when that newsletter comes out, it will hit your inbox. But until then, you can still go check out all the great articles that we have. We have a bunch of great writers on our team that are
we gotta
producing
give
content weekly.
I know you mentioned it, but we got to give a huge shout out to Ryan, who wrote that article, because he does Ryan Pick Six. His last name's Picard. He does a nice play on that. It's very creative. But a 6-leg parlay, like, that's not something you cash in on very often. And he's like, hey, make these picks, bam, rich automatically. So he's on the ball. He's awesome. And you should, if anything, go win some money with him, because that's great.
You should. And go give them a follow, too. You can find all of our writers over at leatherbrainz.com, as well as links to their social media. So go give them a follow. Check them out. They're always talking about good stuff. I appreciate all of you Brainiacs out there. I love you guys. We
are
out.
This is our Colts. This is our team. We bleed blue. This is our Colts. Whether win or lose, we love them. For the shoe, Colts forge. Let the world hear us now. This is our team. Go Colts.